The owner of the LA Times, Patrick Soon-Shiong, I should say Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong, has come out saying that spike protein has been found all over cancer tumors, all inside of cancer tumors. Quite a bombshell. He says he is a surgeon, by the way, who invented the nanoparticle chemotherapy. Abrexane sold companies for billions of dollars. He now owns the LA Times. He appeared on both Charlie Kirk's show and also Chris Cuomo's show, saying that spike protein has just been found all over the place. Let me just play for you this clip from Chris Cuomo's show.
No evidence that when you actually biopsy the tumors, there's the spike protein inside those tumors.
From COVID.
From COVID.
And then there's what happened with Jim Johnson. In 2022, he'd survived his HPV-related cancer for 7 years, and he'd taken the COVID vaccine. Then his doctor gave him some shocking news. The cancer was back with a vengeance.
First person that they know of on the planet that had HPV metastasize onto his liver.
And they didn't know why.
Had no idea why.
This is why I worry when I'm now seeing 10-year-olds with colon cancer. I had a 13-year-old died in a clinic with pancreatic cancer. I'm seeing a lady who was very close to me who had a thymoma 30 years ago, never had remission for 30 years, got COVID, and now has got metastasis.
Okay, so it's important to note that Dr. Soon-Shiong is talking about COVID itself, but not just COVID. He's also going to talk about the vaccine, and I'll show you that clip. But in this segment with Chris Cuomo, he's talking specifically about COVID, saying that something about this spike protein has caused maybe these turbo cancers. It's caused cancer to spread to places it normally wouldn't spread, or it's caused people that were normally in remission. They'd been in remission for a long time, and suddenly they're out of remission. So he's saying something is up with this COVID spike protein. But when he was on Charlie Kirk's show, he actually talks about the vaccine itself and how this, remember, because people who got the vaccine also got COVID. It didn't stop them. So now these people have not only gotten COVID and the spike protein from COVID, but now they've got the spike protein from the vaccine. And a lot of them were turned into spike protein making factories, because that's what the mRNA vaccine told your body to do, was to turn itself into a spike protein factory. And now Dr. Soon-Shiong is saying, yeah, and it turns out those spike proteins are super, super dangerous and potentially causing turbo cancers. Watch this.
So let me just ask the elephant in the room question, if I can, doctor, which is some of our audience is saying, Charlie, this must be the COVID shot, that it's the mRNA shot. I'm sure you get this question a lot, doctor. In your expertise, is there any truth to that? Is that something worth looking into? Help us laymen understand how you're thinking about this.
It is very much something we have to look into, and it's not a political thing. It's a really scientific issue. So for us to understand the COVID vaccine as it currently was presented, which was the spike protein, that spike protein was what they call stabilized. And by so doing, it would enter any part of the body together with these, without going too deep into the technicalities, there's lipid carriers. So the question is, would these spike proteins, together with a combined infection, cause replication in the body? And does that explain the myocarditis? Does it explain the autoimmune disease? Does it explain the brain fog? Does it explain the residual replicating viruses in the colon? So absolutely, this needs to be understood and explored. I don't think there's a coincidence between this, what I call turbo cancers. I get calls after calls of patients that were in remission and then got COVID, and now they have cancer.
Yes.
So I think that this immunosuppression underestimated. The beauty is the BioShield can overcome this immunosuppression. The beauty is that this BioShield can clear this virus from the body. And that's what we're in trials now.
Will anyone face consequences or have any sort of judgment or justice for what's been done here? And would you call them crimes?
Well, look, I have clear information in my possession of the blockage that has been happening over the last 4 years. And, you notice I said it's not a conspiracy if it's true. I'm not a politician and I'm not a lawyer, but somebody will have to be able to investigate that and look into that. I can't comment on whether it's considered a crime. I consider it a moral issue that we have an obligation to our people in America. And it wouldn't be right if this got approved in the rest of the world first, when actually the innovation came from our country.
So there you have it. He says, look, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not law enforcement, so I can't tell you if it's a crime, but morally seems pretty wrong. And he has evidence that people did know. And he's saying that these spike proteins are causing turbo cancers, that it looks like that's what's happening. And this is a guy that has developed a cancer drug. This is a guy that, this is what he's been doing. He's been a transplant doctor and has been, so he's been very familiar with organs and tissues and tumors. And he's saying the spike protein is everywhere. And yeah, the vaccines, of course, especially the type that make that turn your body into spike protein factory, are highly problematic and suspect, and that should be looked into more. And this guy owns the LA Times now. So, of course, I don't think his ownership of the LA Times has had any influence on the LA Times, considering, it's still an extremely liberal news organization that wouldn't dare, I think, put this type of, probably would never even interview him about this or quote him about this. But nonetheless, there was a big stink when he bought the place. They said, oh, this guy. And, I really don't like the idea of these billionaires buying these news organizations, because then they can't implement their own viewpoints into it. And, of course, that's always a danger. I don't know what the alternative is, though. So I got to say, I'm at a loss with that. But it is interesting. I mean, what he's saying is interesting. And so I think we're just starting to see the truth come out about, and obviously, COVID itself is the spike protein is in COVID itself. But there's probably a difference surely there's a difference in how your body clears it naturally when you're fighting a virus versus telling your body to create the very thing that may be very harmful to it, the very thing that may be causing turbo cancers. That is outrageous to be. If it turns out that they know that, yes, these spike proteins got into everywhere. They kept saying to us, no, it stays localized. Remember that when they're like, it's localized, you inject it in your arm and it's just right there. It doesn't go anywhere. And then people were coming out saying, actually, we're finding it all over the place. And they were saying, you conspiracy theorist liar. How dare you say that? And now you have Dr. Soon-Shiong saying, yeah, actually, we see it everywhere in these tumors. We're seeing it all over the place. And how is it that cancer is spreading from one organ to another organ when it should have never spread to that organ? How is that even possible? They don't know. Some researchers, that most of them aren't, but some researchers are looking into this. But how many are really going to look into it? When they get the answers, are they going to say anything? Are we ever going to get the truth? And what will it matter? Besides, hopefully, maybe stopping the people that are still taking it. There's a lot of people out there that are still out there dosing up for their yearly booster. They're on what number? I don't know, 10. I have no idea what number a person might be on at this point if they followed every single time, every single shot they're supposed to get. Maybe it would make them think twice. Maybe they'd pull it off the market, the mRNAs, and maybe they would say mRNA is not the way to go. But there's so much money invested into mRNA, I just cannot imagine them admitting that. But, we're getting these little things piece by piece. And I think these interviews with Dr. Soon-Shiong are, getting out there. But obviously he did that interview with Charlie Kirk months ago, and we're just now seeing it. And he sat down with Chris Cuomo and he just talked about COVID and not necessarily the vaccine. But I think hopefully if they're smart enough, should be able to deduce, well, if it's the spike protein part of COVID and you turned your body into a spike protein factory when you got the mRNA, then the mRNA maybe potentially was also harmful to you. Maybe people will put that together in their brain when they watch Cuomo, but I don't know. But what will it matter when this truth really comes out? Will it matter at all? I think that's the big question. I think many of us are hoping so. But, it is good to see people are now talking about it and they're not being smeared as conspiracy theorists anymore. Instead, people are actually starting to listen. So maybe we're turning a bit of a tide, and maybe some lessons will be learned. Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iverson Show, which you can catch Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. It is free for you to watch. Again, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, KimIversonShow.com. See you there.